Look at that. I'm actually able to do a live. My makeup is, I don't have any on. See, I got my bare face, blemishes and all. But I wanted to talk about something really, really quickly. I know I didn't plan to do this live, but there's there's been just some things on my mind that I wanted to just say really quickly. If you follow my content on LinkedIn, um, you already know kind of what my dialogue is like. And I do talk a lot about some of the things that are going on in the world today because I think it's important for us to talk about the things that impact our life. What's up, Tony? I'm actually going live on YouTube. I'm not using StreamYard, so hopefully everything is working right. But, I wanted to talk about, just this concept of bravery in today's conversations. I get a lot of individuals reach out to me. Hey, James, how are you? I just wanted to pop this live on. I did not plan this, so I appreciate you guys jumping in. But, I get a lot of comments. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you know what I talk about. You know that I talk a lot about social and political things. And, I get a lot of feedback from people saying, "Oh, you are so brave. You are so brave for talking about this. And I love your boldness." And then I go onto their page and they're crickets, right? And see, that is the problem with the world that we're living in today, the society that we live in today, is that people have been conditioned. They have been conditioned by governments, they have been conditioned by corporations to be afraid to stand up for their God given freedoms. Okay. God has given each individual on this earth an opportunity, but also an option to serve Him. That God does that. If you're a Christian, you know you have a choice whether or not to serve God, right? And I think what a lot of people they have sort of bought into is this systemic conditioning. The systemic conditioning that you can engage in public discourse or your company's HR or compliance department is going to ping you, right? And people have bought into the idea that their companies can tell them what they can and should put into their bodies. And even down to sometimes the company can tell you who to date. So we have allowed companies and we've allowed governments to suppress us on almost every fundamental level um, of our lives in which we really should not be suppressed. And the reason why I brought this up is because, and what spurred this on is because one of my LinkedIn connections reached out to me and she was telling me about one of her coworkers who, in her opinion, she felt like this woman was bullying her. She was bullying her. So she sends this long thing about how she enjoys, looking at political perspectives. She likes getting advice. And she mentioned that, one of her coworkers reached out to her and said that she should not engage in political discussions because this would be a turnoff to coworkers and it would be a turnoff to prospective customers. Now, what this coworker, in my opinion, fails to realize is that coworkers have political perspectives. Coworkers have political opinions. You have a lot of these passionately ignorant individuals who are from the liberal space and in the conservative space. And guess what? There are customers that identify with both of those ideologies. Now, what I think is clear is that on the liberal side, they're talking about broken disenfranchised, right? But these are the very ones trying to suppress people from working, from being able to just have all the rights that normal people have. So I say this to say, stop calling people who are standing up for freedom brave. Yes, they are brave, but they're also more sensible than you are, and they have less fear than you are, and they recognize that this is not a time to be fearful. This is a time for people to stand up for their fundamental human rights. This is a time for people to stand up and say, we don't want fascist governments and corporations ruling every aspect of our lives, telling us that we need to wear wristbands that tell them our biometrics and our feelings about something. We don't want that. We don't want this invasive society that they are trying to transition us into. And I think that people need to also be more sensible to the fact that a lot of these opposing viewpoints that you feel so passionately ignorant about, a lot of these things are coming into fruition. So a lot of people that you want to deem as terrorists and traitors and everything like that, these are the very individuals that have been talking about vaccine mandates and vaccine passports and all of these realities that are coming into fruition today. These are the very people that were talking about it. But because there are so many individuals who are okay with having their public discourse suppressed for the sake of some livelihood that could be taken away from you at will. I mean, just think about that. You get a vaccine tomorrow or today, and your employer could fire you at will. Now you have this vaccine in your body and you've been fired at will. So, what does that tell you? It's not valuable for anybody to submit to what corporations tell them that they should do with their bodies and with their political speech. Because corporations fund political movements all the time. Political candidates get funding from corporations all the time. So for corporations to think that it is okay to suppress their employees' First Amendment speech because it may not agree with the narrative that they're going along with, is ridiculous. Get out of a company like that. Get out of a company like that. And the one thing I do give my current company credit to is that I have said what I've thought in a very tactful, non-inflammatory way. And I think that's why I haven't gotten deleted or banned from LinkedIn like a lot of other Black conservatives. LinkedIn has suppressed and banned permanently a lot of Black conservatives. But I try to take a very tactful approach to how I have conversations on LinkedIn. And so if you're reading my content and you actually have some level of common sense, you are not going to be inflamed. It's going to be a broadened perspective that you can consider, you can think about, you can run with it or not. But I'm not being brave. I know that I'm taking a lot of risk. I'm taking a lot of risks because a lot of companies don't want to hire people who are politically vocal. They don't want to hire people who have a viewpoint. They don't want to hire people who have a sense of independence. And that's why so many people are afraid to vocalize their disdain for a lot of stuff that's happening in the world today. It's amazing how many companies were silent about what was going on in Canada, the straight tyranny. And what did Justin Trudeau do? He just revoked their emergency act because it was just nonsensical. It was tyrannical. And so a lot of businesses were silent on that, but their customers weren't. Some of their employees, maybe most of their employees were, but I guarantee you, most of the people vocal about what is happening in the government today, these individuals, I 100% guarantee you, they have calculated the risk of losing their job, being blacklisted from corporations, and they just do not care. Because some of us care about the future of our children. And when I'm vocal, I am vocal because I don't want my kids to live in a social reality of tyranny. I don't want them living in a reality where their biometrics and everything about their independent livelihood is in the hands of a government or a corporation. That's not the way free societies are supposed to live. It's just not. And so I don't find that I'm being brave. I really feel like I am fighting for something that I'm passionate about. I am passionate for individuals being able to prosper. I am passionate about individuals being able to compete. I am passionate about individuals being able to make their own executive decisions within their lives. So, if you are telling people who are fighting for freedom right now that they are brave while you are sitting safely with your cushioned corporate job that could be taken away from you any minute if you don't comply with what they want to do to you next or whatever, just know that you're weak. You're the opposite of brave. And I don't want to be mean when I say this, and I'm not trying to be mean, but you really are weak. And in a fight like this, where people really are trying to preserve their sense of dignity and freedom, we don't have time for weakness, and we don't have even words. We don't even have time for people who are not in the trenches right now talking about how brave somebody is for being a voice for them. For being a voice for them. You know, I saw someone post a picture of a monkey saying that it's great to be a voice for somebody. I was like, first of all, put a human on that picture, okay? Because monkeys don't have a voice for other monkeys, okay? Humans do. But even still, you know, you can only have so many brave humans that are speaking for other humans that don't want to put themselves on the line to preserve the freedom that other people are fighting for. You know, those truckers in Canada, they were taking economic risks. They knew that it would be an economic risk, it would be a social risk, because the government was going to do all kinds of things to make their livelihoods and their image look bad. But they took the risk because not only did they care about their own freedoms, they cared about the freedoms of other people. So I feel like people need to start stepping up, and they need to start being more vocal. Public discourse is the way in which societies function. We understand when you suppress discourse, when you push a one sided narrative, you are hurting society. You are absolutely hurting society. So, am I brave? Maybe. But could it be that you are weak during a time where Americans and even people in societies globally just cannot afford to have weak people talking about how brave they are? So I am not trying to start a revolution. You know, I'm starting, if anything, I'm trying to, if I am starting a revolution, it's a thought revolution for people to stop looking at things so narrowly with these artificial realities and get back into reality. People are saying that U.S. convoy is trapped to trigger martial law. You know, here's the thing. I think that a lot of these measurements, and it could be calculated reaction. It could be calculated reaction. You know, if the Biden law, if the Biden regime, that's what I call them, enacts martial law, they basically be doing exactly what they've wanted to do anyways, which is have a reason to enact martial law. And the only reason, and the only way I can see that kind of being a scenario is if they have their FBI friends infiltrate the truckers convoy, because we have seen several times since 2020 where the FBI has had agents infiltrate conservative peaceful protests with Nazi signs, swastikas, and all that kind of stuff. Like we even saw it with the Youngkin. I mean, if we learned anything from Glenn Youngkin outside of parents don't want critical race and they will win in that fight, right? We saw a fringe group, the Lincoln Project, infiltrate Youngkin campaign rallies with individuals that were supposed to be neo-Nazis. So you already know that these Democrats, their establishment pals, they got white supremacy on lock. They got it on call because they are the real white supremacists. And that is why it's always nonsensical to me that Black people would believe that Democrats have their best interests at mind in modern American social contract. You cannot be being tired of doing the same damn thing and not recognize that you are giving your livelihood, your happiness into the hands of an oppressor. So I wanted to do this video because you guys, we are in a situation where civil liberties are being attacked. They're just being straight up attacked. People are being attacked for standing up for civil liberties. People are being put on lists. You got people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, who is probably one of the most radical beta people in Congress right now. And this woman has all kinds of ridiculous ideas to deal with people who don't want to agree with them. Doxing people, putting people on lists. So this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with individuals who have been handpicked to make society, shape society exactly the way that they want. I've been looking at the World Economic Forum quite a bit the last week. It's almost become like this weird interest of mine just to kind of see, is this evil thing, right? And, it's interesting because if you actually do take a moment and just binge watch some of the World Economic Forum conversations and the talks, you'll see that they actually have a lot of reasonable people on a philosophical level explaining why some of these ideas may have a risk to the rights and just overall liberty of humanity. They actually have experts. Who are saying, as much as we're trying to shape this society of control and 1% prosperity, we definitely, if we're doing something with the mindset of resetting societies globally for the best interest of humanity to address all of these issues that these people who are organizing this created. Like, how do we clean up the world? We just gonna, basically say, oh, in the next cycle of things, everything is gonna be fair. Because we've basically robbed humanity of the wealth possibilities. I mean, this is what we're dealing with. And yeah, these people have more money. But let me tell you what more money really does not do. Let me just kind of show you some of this. Mike Bloomberg and LeBron collectively, I believe, spent almost 230 million, along with, and this is with other individuals too, to get prisoners out of jail so that they could vote for Biden, right? That did not work. They did it in Florida, right? They tried to do this in Florida. It didn't work. Half of the people that they tried to put this money on to get out so they could vote for Biden could not vote. They were not eligible to vote. They weren't even eligible to get out of jail. So what does that tell you? There was 200 and I believe almost 200 million dollars to just unseat Lindsey Graham, right? Just to get another person in Lindsey Graham's seat, they spent $200 million in the middle of a pandemic. Right? So we know that there is stupid money around this particular country and even globally for people to play with to create all kinds of scenarios or to get some outcome that they want. But these are the same people talking about people's problems and refuse to put that same money on outcomes that are plausible. These people think if we give money to Black Lives Matter, they're going to take care of the Black community, right? But basically, these people have been funding Marxism. And now they have given Black Lives Matter so much money. Now the investors are like, okay, well, can we see what y'all did with it? And they don't know where the money is. And of course, these investors, they don't necessarily care, but I'm pretty sure they're curious because it's a political cycle. It's midterm time. They're going to need racism. They're going to need Black Lives Matter. Like I said, they're seasonal workers. So we need our Macy's gift wrappers back, for the political season, And that's pretty much what we're dealing with is these irrational people who have the money and the power to make other people afraid of their rationality. That's what it is. And there are some people who believe in their freedom and their individualism and their rationality enough to say, no, if even if I have to take the fall, even if I have to deal with the hardship, at least you're going to be exposed for the for the corrupt individual or entity that you are. So, with that being said, everyone, keep your head up, keep your prayers up. We already know that a lot of this stuff is just bound to happen, and but it's not like I wouldn't want anything like this to go down without people being able to sit back and at least being able to say, if it all goes down and we're in the future and we're all ID tagged or chipped and all kinds of crazy stuff so that they can keep track of us or whatever, I want to at least be able to tell my kids I was not on the bandwagon of ignorance, that I stood up and I risked my job and our livelihood so that you guys did not have to deal with this type of surveillance state, this type of tyranny. So if you're one of those people who are doing that, kudos to you. Thank you so much for your service, right? Because the truckers and the people who are fighting for freedoms, they are, to me, they are as close to servicemen. They are domestic servicemen. No, they weren't drafted by the U.S. military, but these individuals, these citizens, I thank them for their service because you are servicing humanity more than the people who claim that they are servicing humanity. So that's all I got, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stop telling people who are fighting for freedom that they're brave if you are sitting on your ass trying to wait for the outcome of their bravery all the while you're living in the luxury of your fear. So that's what I got for you guys. You have a wonderful day. Bye.